questions, please?
Yes, this is a letter from one of the viewers from Algeria.
Algeria.
He had 4 questions.
Right, please do.
The first question is he's asking about the meaning of a verse from Surah Maryam. واذكر في الكتاب إدريس إنه كان صديقا نبيا ورفعناه مكانا عليا. And he's asking, was Idris alayhi salam risen to heaven?
Yes. Oh, but read it in Arabic as well. Right. The answer to this question is that this is a very clear verse which indicates what Rafa means. Because if we understand from this that Idris was bodily lifted from the earth to some place in space, then there should be some verse of the Quran telling us of his return, or he will die there, or he will live eternally like God. So which option would they have? If those who insist that the word Rafa should be translated as lifted him bodily to a place very high, an elevated place, then all right, if he was lifted, then why hasn't he come back? Now the Muslim ulama are now caught in a net. They simply cannot escape this verse. Thank you for sending me this, because they all agree that prior to Hazrat Aqdas Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, no Idris returned, right? And after Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah, no descent of Idris was prophesied either by the Quran or by Hadith. See? So even Jesus has not been, the concept of his descent has not been fully digested by them. What with this added problem of Idris? Where will he fix them? Where will they fix Idris? What will he do? And when will he descend? So all these points indicate that their translation is wrong and our translation is right. We say that it should be, wherever the word Rafa is used, Allah is the fa'il and human beings are maf'ul, then the word Rafa should only mean that this man was elevated in status, in nearness to God. So we raised him to a very high status. That is the only meaning. Now, I have given an example of this before from a hadith which says that إِذَا تَوَاضَعَ الْعَبْدُ رَفَعَهُ اللَّهُ إِلَى السَّمَاءِ السَّابِعِ. So instead of Makan Aliyah, Sama Sabe is mentioned. And that also is indicative that Hazrat Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam used the word Rafa in the meaning of spiritual elevation, not the bodily elevation. Now some people would say, all right, give the riwayat and the full sanad of this hadith. It is commonly quoted by many Muslim scholars and commentators of the Holy Quran, but it doesn't have a sanad from Sahah. It is reported kis kitab mein hai? We've got the reference. But leave that alone. The Muslims have never rejected the subject of this hadith. No scholar on earth has ever objected. How could this hadith be true? Because no man has been ever lifted or wrapped fi salasil, fi zanjeer. Because this has happened, this never happened, so this hadith has to be false hadith. Nobody has said that. So by that they accepted the subject matter. Whether the riwayat is strong or not strong, it becomes irrelevant. The whole ummah of Islam has accepted that the Rafa here is right, and it doesn't create any problem. But it does if you understand it to mean physical ascent, not the spiritual ascent. Then it creates problem. But leaving that alone, I'll come to another usage of rafa in Islam advised by Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah, that will make the matter clear, please. And in relation to Jesus Christ, when will he come before him or after him? And what would be the interrelation? What will he do in the Ummah? There is no mention whatsoever. So the only alternative is that he has gone up and has become eternalized. Because without returning to earth, he cannot die there. One verse of the Holy Quran will stop him dying. Because the Holy Quran says, فِيهَا تَحْيَوْنَا وَفِيهَا تَمُوتُونَ وَمِنْهَا تُخْرَجُونَ. So how could Idris, this verse apply to Idris? If he dies upstairs somewhere, high in heaven, in some fourth or fifth heaven. So this verse 100% proves our point of view, that the word rafa is only spiritual, not literal. Now this hadith is reported in two books. One is Firdausul Akhbar بماثور الخطاب المخرج على كتاب الشهاد تالیف الحافظ شیروہ ابن شہزاد ابن شیروہ الدلمی, published in 445. Now this Dalami lived from 445 to 506. And the second reference is from Kanzul Amal. Kanzul Amal ka niche? Kanzul Amal al-Allama Alauddin Ali al-Muttaqi ibn Hisamuddin al-Hindi al-Burhan al-Fawri al-Mutawaffa al-Burhan al-Fawri, मगर अल नहीं है फौरी के ऊपर, al-Burhan Fawri al-Mutawaffa 975, al-Juz al-Salis, Maktaba al-Tharasul Islami, Halab. These are the two books which have mentioned this hadith. But apart from that, I have already explained. Now I come to another hadith which has instructed us what to read between the two sajdas. It's not in fact a hadith as much as it is sunnah. Sunnah is stronger than hadith. Sunnah is the practice of Muslimin for the last 1400 years, which is mutawatira. And when the Muslims do this in their ibadat, the question of whether it is based on right hadith or wrong hadith, it becomes irrelevant. This is the strongest proof that they must have heard from the early sources, otherwise they shouldn't have started practicing it during their prayer. Now I am saying that because some sects in Islam do not say anything between the two sajdas. Some sects consider it essential because they believe these words have been taught by Hazrat Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. I collected ahadith on this, and there were quite a few. There is no dearth of such ahadith. So ahadith are there, but in fact it is needless to go into that detail because it has become a sunnat mutawatira of the whole ummah based on the sunnat what they believed was sunnat Hazrat Muhammad Rasulullah. And some sects have, you have said yes, that, huh? Yes, that's right. That is the dua in Dana Sajdatain. Now I'll read it in some order, but in some ahadith it is in different order, in some others it is in different orders. So this is why I investigated. What is the order? The order I remember was taught to me, but it is not found in every hadith in the same order, and there is difference, so the words are important, not the order. This prayer. आप सुनाएं क्या याद है?
اللهم اغفر لي اللهم اغفر لي وارحمني واهدني وعافني وارفعني واجبرني وارزقني.
Some say wahdini afterwards. So this is the meaning. Warfani is the central point in this. All these words are found in different traditions except in some traditions some words are missing and their order is changed. But warfani is common to all. This is the point. Warfani is common to all such ahadith which speak of this prayer which should be recited between two sajdas. Correct? Now what does it mean, warfani? Does it mean that, oh God, please raise me bodily, lift me up before I do the second sajda? It is recited between the two sajdas. So this is a strange dua. It is the believer so unhappy by prostrating before Allah that he said, for God's sake, it's enough, no more. Lift me now here, in this position. It does not mean sense whatsoever. The only sense which it makes is this, that the believer, when he goes into prostration and returns, he remembers that during the sajda, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had taught him to pray, Subhana Rabbi al-Ala, Subhana Rabbi al-Ala, Subhana Rabbi al-Ala. Pure from all defects, Subhan, above everything faulty, is my Lord. Al-Ala, who is the highest, the loftiest. So this prayer perfectly, coincides with the subject and it fits in beautifully. This means that the Rasulullah ﷺ tells the believers that when you have prostrated, you have shown that you are the humblest. You have confessed that God is the loftiest. So request Him that when I have prostrated myself, please lift my status now, because you are the loftiest. It goes perfectly well with each other. And now when you reread the other hadith, in this lies the proof of the other hadith as well. Because in other hadith, Rasulullah ﷺ said, it is hadith Qudsi, إِذَا تَوَاضَعَ الْعَبْدُ. Tawadu al-abdu, prostrated or humbled himself. رَفَعَهُ اللَّهُ إِلَى السَّمَاءِ السَّابِعِ بِالسِّلْسِلَةِ. God would raise him or raises him with a long chain to the seventh heaven. So have you ever witnessed somebody disappearing from the mosque? Or in your house, next a few paces from you, so your wife is praying, your children are praying, and suddenly they, just they go up and disappear. So they insist on such translations as will be undignified in relation to the Quran and the Holy Prophet and Holy God. Unacceptable. What we translate is so beautiful. It presents the image of the Quran and the subjects of prayer, etc., in the most brilliant light. That Allah is the loftiest. When you prostrate, it is for Him to lift you as well, because you do it for His sake. If somebody humbles before you, if you are a man of good manner, you lift him. No, please come. So this is the meaning of this prayer, and this is the lesson taught to us. And so Rafa can only mean in relation to God when He speaks of His servants as lifting of status, not of bodies. In the light of this as well, the meaning of Rafa'ahullahu makana, Rafa'ahu, I'm sorry, that's right. وَرَفَعْنَاهُ مَكَانًا عَلِيًّا. We lifted him to a high status. That's the meaning we do. We observe and insist this is the right meaning. See about that Balam Baur as well. Yes. The same is the word used. وَلَوْ شِئْنَا لَرَفَعْنَاهُ بِهَا وَلَكِنَّهُ أَخْلَدَ إِلَى الْأَرْضِ. The Mufassirin tell us that it is Balam Baur, the name of that man was Balam Baur, about whom this verse is revealed. This means that there was a man whom Allah had gifted with powers to gain his nearness, to get closer to him. But being pious for a while, being righteous for a while, at last he decided to return to the earthly things, abandon God and turn down to earth. This is the picture of that man painted in this verse. He says, وَلَوْ شَيْنَا لَرَفَعْنَاهُ بِهَا. With the qualities he had, if we had decided, we could lift him. وَلَكِنَّهُ أَخْلَدَ إِلَى الْأَرْضِ. But he, went down into the earth, bent down to the earth. Now, if Rafa means bodily lifting, then what is the scenario it presents? It presents that Allah, if He so wanted, should have lifted him. But like a bad child, nasty child, he kicked himself out and just went down into the earth. What a thing to believe. Such people don't apply their minds. God has given them intelligence and common sense. It doesn't mean that he, insisted, no, don't lift me, I'm going to go down to the earth. It simply means that he had been gifted with qualities which could raise his status in the sight of Allah. But Allah does not force anybody. Walau Shaina means we could have, but he did not want it. So he turned down to earth, so we left him alone. Again, word Rafa doesn't mean a body lifting, it means spiritual elevation. Right?